The rain battered the windshield as I gripped the steering wheel, my knuckles white against the storm's howl. I was 19, broke, and driving through Seattle's suburbs to crash at my friend Tara's place, hoping for a lifeline. What I didn't know was that her mom, Elise, would unravel my world in ways I never imagined. My name's Riley Harper, and I'd been running on fumes literally and figuratively since I left home 6 months ago. Kicked out for coming out, I'd been couch surfing, scraping by on barista wages, and dodging the ache of rejection. Tara, my best friend since high school, had always been my safe harbor, and her text offering a spare room felt like salvation. "Come stay as long as you need," she'd written. I didn't hesitate. Tara's house was a cozy, 2-story craftsman nestled in a quiet neighborhood, the kind where kids rode bikes and neighbors waved. I parked my beat-up Honda, grabbed my duffel, and sprinted through the rain to the porch. Tara flung the door open, her blonde curls bouncing as she pulled me into a hug. "Riley, you look like a drowned rat," she teased, her green eyes bright. At 20, Tara was all sunshine, her optimism a stark contrast to my guarded edges. "Better than a broke rat," I shot back, grinning despite the chill seeping into my bones. The house smelled of fresh bread and lavender, warm and inviting. Tara dragged me inside, chattering about her new job at an art gallery, but my attention snagged on the woman in the kitchen. Elise Bennett, Tara's mom, was chopping vegetables with a practiced ease, her auburn hair catching the light like a flame. At 38, she was striking, tall, with sharp cheekbones and a quiet intensity that made my breath hitch. She looked up, her hazel eyes locking onto mine, and smiled. "You must be Riley. Tara's told me so much about you." Her voice was smooth, like honey over gravel, and I fumbled a response, suddenly hyper-aware of my soaked clothes and messy hair. Yeah, hi. Thanks for letting me crash." My cheeks burned as I shuffled past her to the guest room, feeling her gaze linger a moment too long. That night, over dinner, Elise asked about my life, gentle questions that felt like she was peeling back layers I'd kept hidden. Tara was oblivious, scrolling through her phone, but Elise's attention was a spotlight. "So, Riley," she said, leaning forward, "what's your dream?" "Beyond the coffee shop grind." Her tone was curious, not judgmental, and it disarmed me. I mumbled something about wanting to write, maybe travel, but the truth was I hadn't dared dream since my parents' rejection. Elise nodded, like she understood more than I'd said. "You'll get there," she said softly. "You're stronger than you know." The next few days blurred into a rhythm. Tara worked long hours, leaving me and Elise alone in the house more than I expected. I'd find excuses to linger in the kitchen while she cooked, drawn to her easy laugh and the stories she shared about her divorce, her art therapy practice, her love for hiking. She was open, warm, but there was a guarded edge, like she was holding something back. One afternoon, I found her sketching in the living room, sunlight streaming through the window. "You're good," I said, peering at the delicate lines of a mountain cape. She laughed, brushing a strand of hair behind her ear. "Just a hobby. Wanna try?" She handed me a pencil, her fingers brushing mine, and my heart stuttered. It was innocent, but the air felt charged, like static before a storm. That night, I couldn't sleep. The guest room was too quiet, my thoughts too loud. Was I imagining the way Elise looked at me? The way her smile softened when I spoke? I was 19, a mess of a kid, and she was, well, her. Confident, beautiful, untouchable. But the pull was undeniable, a current dragging me toward something I couldn't name. The next morning, Tara announced she was heading to Portland for a weekend art show. "You'll be okay with Mom, right?" she asked, tossing clothes into a bag. I nodded, my stomach twisting with something I couldn't place. Nerves, excitement, maybe both. Elise appeared in the doorway, a mug of coffee in hand. "We'll manage," she said, her eyes meeting mine with a spark that felt like a secret. As Tara's car pulled away, the house felt different, quieter, heavier. Elise was in the garden, tending to her roses, and I watched her from the porch, the morning sun painting her in gold. She caught me staring and waved me over. "Help me with these," she asked, holding out a pair of pruning shears. I took them, my fingers brushing hers again, and this time, she didn't pull away. We worked side by side, the silence comfortable but electric. "You're quiet today," she said, glancing at me. "Something on your mind?" I hesitated, the words caught in my throat. How could I tell her I was terrified of what I felt? That her presence made my chest ache in a way I'd never known? Instead, I shrugged. "Just figuring things out." She nodded, like she heard the words I didn't say. "Life's messy like that," she said, her voice soft. "But sometimes, the mess is where the good stuff happens." That night, over wine and a crackling fire, Elise told me about her life, her marriage that crumbled under expectations, her struggle to rebuild herself, her fear of being alone. I shared my own scars, my parents' rejection, the loneliness of starting over. The room felt smaller, the space between us shrinking with every word. When she reached for my hand, her touch was warm, steady, and I didn't pull away. "Riley," she said, her voice barely above a whisper, "you don't have to hide who you are." "Not here." Her thumb brushed my knuckles, and my heart pounded so loud I was sure she could hear it. I wanted to lean in, to close the distance, but fear stopped me. What was this? What could it be? The next day, Elise suggested a hike in the nearby mountains. "You need to see something beautiful," she said, and I couldn't tell if she meant the view or something else. We trekked through pine-scented trails, her laughter echoing as she pointed out wildflowers. At the summit, we sat on a rocky outcrop, the city sprawling below us. She turned to me, her eyes searching. "You ever feel like you're standing on the edge of something big?" I swallowed hard, my voice barely steady. "Yeah, right now." Her smile was soft, knowing. "Me too." As we hiked back, her hand brushed mine, and this time, I didn't let go. The world felt different, brighter, scarier, alive. I didn't know what was coming, but for the first time in months, I wasn't running from it. The trail dust clung to my boots as we returned to Elise's house, the air between us thick with something unspoken. Her hand had lingered in mine longer than necessary, and my pulse hadn't slowed since. I was 19, a drifter with a chipped heart, and Elise, 38, poised, a woman who'd built a life from ashes, was rewriting every rule I thought I knew. That evening, Elise cooked pasta, the kitchen steaming with garlic and basil. I leaned against the counter, watching her move with a grace that made my chest ache. "You're staring," she said, a playful edge to her voice, not looking up from the stove. "Am I?" I shot back, my cheeks burning. "Maybe you're just distracting." The words slipped out before I could stop them, bold in a way I wasn't used to. Her laugh was low, warm, and it sent a shiver down my spine. "Careful, Riley," she said, turning to face me, a wooden spoon in hand. "You keep talking like that, I might start believing you." Her hazel eyes held mine, and for a moment, the world narrowed to just us, her teasing smile, my racing heart, the hum of possibility. Dinner was a blur. We talked about everything and nothing, her favorite books, my half-written poems, the way Seattle's rain felt like it could wash away your past. Every word felt like a step closer to something dangerous, something I craved. When I offered to wash dishes, she joined me, her shoulder brushing mine as we stood at the sink. The contact was electric, and I fumbled a plate, nearly dropping it. "Easy there," she said, her hand steadying mine. Her touch lingered, and I didn't pull away. Neither did she. The air felt heavy, like the moment before a storm breaks, and I wondered if she felt it too, the pull, the risk, the want. The next morning, I woke to the smell of coffee and the sound of Elise humming in the kitchen. I found her at the table, sketching again, her hair tucked behind one ear. "Morning," she said, glancing up with a smile that made my stomach flip. "Sleep okay?" "Barely," I admitted, sliding into a chair across from her. "Too much thinking." It was the closest I could get to confessing the chaos she'd stirred in me. Her eyes softened, like she understood, but she didn't push. Instead, she slid a sketch pad toward me. "Draw something," she said. "Anything." I hesitated, then picked up a pencil. My lines were shaky, unpracticed, but I sketched a jagged horizon, a mountain, maybe, or the edge of my own uncertainty. Elise watched, her presence steadying me. "You've got a good eye," she said, leaning closer. Her breath was warm against my cheek, and I froze, hyper-aware of how close she was. "Thanks," I mumbled, my voice barely audible. I wanted to say more, to ask what this was, but fear clamped my throat shut. She was Tara's mom. She was 19 years older than me. This couldn't be real, could it? That afternoon, Elise suggested we visit a local bookstore, a cozy spot downtown with creaky floors and towering shelves. We wandered the aisles, sharing recommendations, our fingers brushing as we reached for the same book. Each touch felt like a question, and I didn't know the answer. At the counter, she bought me a worn copy of The Bell Jar, her fingers lingering as she handed it to me. "For your dreams," she said softly. "Don't stop writing." Back at the house, the tension grew. Tara was still in Portland, and the quiet stretched between us, heavy with possibility. That night, we sat on the couch, a movie playing but ignored. Elise was closer than she needed to be, her knee brushing mine. "Riley," she said suddenly, her voice low, "what are you afraid of?" The question caught me off guard. I stared at the flickering screen, my heart pounding. "Everything," I admitted. "This. You. What it means." My voice cracked, and I hated how vulnerable I sounded. She turned to face me, her eyes searching. "I'm scared too," she said, and the confession felt like a gift. "But sometimes, fear means you're on the right path." Her hand found mine, her fingers lacing through my own, and the world tilted. I wanted to kiss her, to close the distance, but the weight of it, what it could cost, held me back. The next day, Tara called to say she'd be back late. Elise and I spent the day in the garden again, pruning, planting, talking about nothing but saying everything. Her laugh was brighter, her glances bolder. When a thorn pricked my finger, she took my hand, her touch gentle as she cleaned the tiny wound. "You're tougher than you look," she said, her voice soft but sure. "I don't feel tough," I said, meeting her gaze. "Not around you." It was the most honest thing I'd said, and her smile faltered, replaced by something deeper, something raw. That night, we cooked together, our movements a quiet dance in the small kitchen. She brushed past me, her hand grazing my waist, and I froze, my breath catching. "Sorry," she murmured, but her eyes said she wasn't. I wanted to say something, to break the silence, but words felt too small for what was building. As we ate, she told me about her first love, a woman, years ago, before her marriage. "I hid that part of myself for so long," she said, her voice heavy with regret. "I don't want to hide anymore." Her words hung in the air, a challenge, an invitation. I reached for her hand, my heart racing. "I don't want you to," I said, and the words felt like a vow. Her fingers tightened around mine, and for a moment, we were the only two people in the world. But the sound of a car in the driveway shattered the moment. Tara was back. We pulled apart, the air thick with what we hadn't said. Tara burst in, all energy and stories, oblivious to the tension. Elise smiled, but her eyes stayed on me, and I knew this wasn't over. It was just beginning. Tara's return didn't erase the spark between Elise and me, it only made it harder to ignore. Her chatter filled the house, but every glance Elise and I shared felt like a secret, a thread pulling tighter. I was caught between wanting to run from it and wanting to dive in, consequences be damned. The next morning, Tara dragged me to a coffee shop to catch up. "You seem different," she said, squinting at me over her latte. "Happier, maybe?" At 20, Tara was perceptive but not enough to see the truth. I shrugged, sipping my black coffee, my thoughts on Elise's hand in mine the night before. "Just glad to have a roof over my head," I said, dodging. But the truth was, Elise's presence was a warmth I hadn't known I needed. At 19, I was used to surviving, not feeling. She was changing that, and it terrified me. Back at the house, Elise was in her art studio, a small room filled with canvases and the scent of paint. Tara was napping, jet-lagged from her trip, so I knocked softly. "Can I come in?" I asked, my voice shaky. Elise looked up, her auburn hair tied back, a smudge of blue paint on her cheek. "Always," she said, her smile pulling me in. I stepped inside, the door clicking shut behind me. The room felt like a sanctuary, her world laid bare in sketches and colors. "Show me something you're working on," I said, needing a distraction from the way her eyes made my heart race. She hesitated, then pulled out a canvas, a portrait of a woman with short, tousled hair, her eyes full of quiet strength. It was me. My breath caught. "When did you?" I trailed off, stunned. The painting was raw, intimate, like she'd seen parts of me I didn't show anyone. "Last night," she said, her voice soft. "I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about you." Her words were a confession, and the air between us crackled. I stepped closer, drawn to her like gravity. "Elise," I started, but the words died. I didn't know how to name this feeling: want, fear, hope, all tangled together. She reached out, her fingers brushing my jaw, and I leaned into her touch, my eyes closing. "We can't," she whispered, but her hand stayed, trembling. "Tara, this house, it's complicated." "I know," I said, opening my eyes to meet hers. "But I don't care." The words were reckless, but they were true. For the first time, I wasn't running from who I was. Her lips parted, and for a moment, I thought she'd kiss me. But she stepped back, her hand dropping. "We need to be careful," she said, her voice thick with emotion. For now. The rest of the day was torture. Tara was everywhere, oblivious, while Elise and I danced around each other, our glances loaded with what we couldn't say. At dinner, Tara noticed. "You two are weirdly quiet," she said, frowning. "Everything okay?" "Fine," Elise said quickly, her smile tight. I nodded, my throat too tight to speak. But under the table, her foot brushed mine, a secret tether in the chaos. That night, I lay awake, replaying every moment, her touch, her painting, her words. I was falling, and I didn't know how to stop. When I heard a soft knock, my heart leapt. I opened the door to find Elise, her eyes wide, uncertain. "I shouldn't be here," she said, but she stepped inside, closing the door. "I can't stop thinking about you, Riley. It's not fair to you, to Tara, but I can't." I reached for her, my hands finding hers. "Then don't," I said, my voice steady despite the storm inside me. "Don't stop." She kissed me then, soft and urgent, like she'd been holding back for years. It was everything: fire, fear, freedom. When we pulled apart, her forehead rested against mine, her breath ragged. "What are we doing?" she whispered. "I don't know," I admitted. "But I don't want to stop either." We stayed like that, tangled in the dark, until the sound of Tara's footsteps in the hall forced us apart. Elise slipped out, leaving me breathless, my world upended. The next day, she was distant, her smiles careful, and I felt the weight of what we'd done. Tara was my best friend. Elise was her mom. This was a betrayal, wasn't it? But when Tara left for work, Elise found me in the kitchen. "We need to talk," she said, her voice low. "About last night. About us." I nodded, my heart in my throat. "Okay. But no running, Elise. Not from this." She looked at me, her eyes fierce with something I couldn't name. "No running," she promised. And in that moment, I believed her. The kitchen was too small for the weight of our words. Elise stood across from me, her hands gripping the counter like it was the only thing keeping her grounded. I was 19, reckless with want, and she was 38, carrying a lifetime of choices I couldn't fully understand. "Riley," she started, her voice low, "last night was incredible. But it's not simple. Tara's my daughter. You're her friend. This could break everything." I swallowed hard, the truth stinging. "I know. But I've never felt this way. Not with anyone." My voice cracked, betraying the fear I'd tried to bury. Don't tell me you don't feel it too. Her eyes softened, and she stepped closer, close enough that I could smell her lavender perfume. I do, she admitted, her voice barely a whisper. That's what scares me. I've spent years building walls, Riley. You're tearing them down. I wanted to reach for her, to pull her close, but the space between us felt like a minefield. So, what do we do? I asked, my heart pounding. Pretend it didn't happen? She shook her head, her auburn hair catching the morning light. I can't pretend. But we need to be careful. For Tara's sake. For yours. The rest of the day was a tightrope. Tara was back to her bubbly self, planning a movie night, while Elise and I stole glances, each one a spark in a powder keg. At dinner, Tara rambled about her art show, oblivious to the tension. Riley, you should come to the gallery tomorrow, she said. Mom, you too. It'll be fun. Elise nodded, her smile strained. Sounds great, she said, but her eyes flicked to me, heavy with unspoken words. I managed a nod, my stomach twisting. How could I sit through a normal night when every moment with Elise felt like a stolen breath? That evening, we piled onto the couch, Tara between us, a bowl of popcorn in her lap. The movie was a blur, some rom-com that felt cruelly ironic. Elise's arm rested on the couch behind Tara, her fingers inches from my shoulder. I felt her presence like a current, pulling me under. When Tara fell asleep halfway through, her head lolling against Elise's shoulder, the room felt smaller. Elise's eyes met mine over Tara's head, and she mouthed, I'm sorry. I shook my head, whispering, don't be. We didn't speak after that, but the silence said enough. When the movie ended, I carried Tara to her room, her weight familiar from years of friendship. Elise followed, tucking her in with a tenderness that made my chest ache. In the hallway, she stopped me, her hand on my arm. Riley, she said, her voice low, I don't know how to do this. But I want to try. With you. My heart leapt, but fear followed. What about Tara? I asked. What happens when she finds out? Elise's face tightened. I don't know. But I can't lose her. Or you. Her voice broke, and I saw the weight she carried, mother, woman, lover, all at war. I took her hand, my thumb brushing her knuckles. We'll figure it out. Together. It was a promise I wasn't sure I could keep, but I meant it. The next day at the gallery, Tara was in her element, showing off vibrant paintings to a small crowd. Elise and I lingered in the background, our shoulders brushing as we pretended to study the art. Every touch was a risk, every glance a confession. When Tara called us over to meet her boss, Elise's hand grazed my back, a fleeting anchor in the chaos. That night, Tara went out with friends, leaving us alone again. Elise poured wine, her movements tense. I keep thinking about what this means, she said, sitting across from me. You're so young, Riley. You have your whole life ahead of you. I don't want to hold you back. You're not, I said fiercely. You're the first person who's made me feel like I could have a life worth living. The words spilled out, raw and unfiltered, and her eyes widened. She stood, crossing the room to kneel in front of me. You deserve everything, she said, her hands cupping my face. But it's going to be hard. I don't care, I said, leaning into her touch. I want you. She kissed me then, slow and deep, like she was memorizing me. It was different from the night before, less frantic, more certain. When we pulled apart, her eyes were wet. I'm falling for you, Riley Harper, she said, and the words were a lifeline. But the next morning, reality crashed in. Tara was in the kitchen when I woke, her eyes narrow. You and Mom are acting weird, she said, crossing her arms. What's going on? My heart stopped. Elise was upstairs, still asleep, and I was alone with the truth. Nothing, I lied, my voice shaky. Just settling in. Tara didn't buy it. Riley, I know you. Spill. I froze, the weight of our secret crushing me. I wanted to tell her, to be honest, but the thought of losing her, of losing Elise, kept me silent. It's nothing, I repeated, and the lie tasted like ash. Tara's suspicion hung over me like a storm cloud. At 20, she was sharp, her green eyes cutting through my flimsy excuses. I was 19, drowning in a secret that felt bigger than me, and Elise, 38, steady but fragile, was the only thing keeping me afloat. I avoided her questions all morning, dodging with half-truths about being tired, stressed, broke. But Tara wasn't stupid. When Elise came downstairs, her hair mussed from sleep, Tara's gaze flicked between us, her frown deepening. "Mom, you're acting weird too," she said, her voice sharp. "What's with you guys?" Elise's smile was too quick, too tight. "Just worried about Riley settling in," she said, pouring coffee with a steadiness I envied. "She's been through a lot." Her eyes met mine briefly, a silent plea to keep our secret. Tara didn't push, but the air felt charged, like we were one wrong move from disaster. I spent the day out, wandering Seattle's streets, trying to clear my head. The city was alive, buskers strumming guitars, the scent of coffee and rain mixing in the air, but my thoughts were on Elise. Her kiss, her confession, the way she'd said she was falling for me. It was everything I wanted, but the cost was creeping closer. When I got back, Tara was at work, and Elise was in the garden, her hands buried in soil. I joined her, needing her calm to anchor me. "Tara knows something's up," I said, pulling weeds with more force than necessary. "She's not going to let it go." Elise sighed, wiping dirt from her hands. "I know. I've been thinking about how to tell her. But Riley, this could change everything. She might hate me. Hate us." The thought of Tara's anger, of losing her, twisted my gut. She'd been my rock when my parents turned their backs. But Elise was something else, something deeper. "What if we don't tell her?" I asked, my voice small. "What if we just keep this quiet?" Elise's eyes darkened. "I've spent too long hiding who I am," she said. "I won't do that again. Not with you." Her words were firm, but her hand trembled as she reached for mine. "But we need to be smart. Give her time." I nodded, but doubt not at me. How long could we hide? How long before the truth tore us apart? That night, Tara insisted on a girls' night, pizza, wine, and a stack of old DVDs. Elise and I sat on opposite ends of the couch, the distance between us a painful necessity. Tara was oblivious, laughing at the screen, but every time Elise's eyes met mine, my heart ached. I wanted to be closer, to feel her warmth, but Tara was a wall we couldn't cross. When Tara went to bed, Elise lingered in the living room, her expression heavy. "I hate this," she said, her voice low. "Pretending. Sneaking around. You deserve better." "So do you," I said, stepping closer. "But I'd rather have this than nothing." I kissed her, quick and desperate, before pulling back. "We'll figure it out. We have to." The next day, Tara cornered me in the kitchen. "Riley, level with me," she said, her arms crossed. "You and Mom are hiding something." "I'm not an idiot." My mouth went dry. "It's complicated," I said, hating how weak it sounded. "I'm just going through some stuff." Her eyes narrowed. "Don't lie to me. You're my best friend. If something's up, I deserve to know." Guilt choked me. She was right, but the truth felt like a blade. Before I could respond, Elise walked in, her face pale. "Tara, we need to talk," she said, her voice steady but strained. My heart sank. This was it. Tara frowned, looking between us. "Okay, what's going on?" Elise took a deep breath, her eyes flicking to me. "Riley and we've developed feelings for each other." The words hung in the air, heavy and final. Tara's face froze, her eyes wide with shock. "You're joking," she said, her voice sharp. "Mom, she's my age. She's my friend." "What the hell?" "Tara, I didn't plan this," Elise said, her voice breaking. "It just happened. I care about her. A lot." Tara turned to me, her eyes blazing. "And you? You're okay with this? Sneaking around behind my back?" "I'm sorry," I said, my voice shaking. "I didn't want to hurt you. I love you, Tara, but I love her too." The word slipped out love and it stunned us all. Tara's face crumpled and she stormed out, slamming the door. Elise sank into a chair, her hands covering her face. "I've lost her," she whispered. I knelt beside her, my heart breaking. "You haven't. She just needs time." But even as I said it, I wasn't sure. The truth was out and there was no going back. The silence after Tara's exit was deafening. Elise sat at the kitchen table, her face buried in her hands, while I stood frozen, my heart pounding with guilt and fear. At 19, I'd never meant to break anything, but love at 38. Elise's love had a way of shattering everything I thought I knew. "I should go after her," Elise said finally, her voice thick with tears. She stood, but I grabbed her hand. "Let her cool off," I said, my voice softer than I felt. "She's hurt, but she loves you. She'll come back." Elise's eyes met mine, raw and vulnerable. "What if she doesn't? She's my daughter, Riley. I can't lose her." "You won't," I said, wishing I believed it. "We'll fix this. Somehow." But the truth was, I didn't know how. Tara's anger was a wall, and we were on the wrong side. The rest of the day was a blur. Elise called Tara's phone, left voicemails, texted apologies, but there was no response. I wandered the house, useless, replaying the moment I'd said love. It was true, I loved Elise, her strength, her warmth, the way she saw me. But saying it had cost us everything. That night, Elise and I sat on the porch, the Seattle rain a soft drumbeat around us. "I should have handled it better," she said, her voice hollow. "I should have told her sooner, not let it explode like that." "We both should have," I said, pulling my knees to my chest. "But I don't regret it, Elise. I don't regret you." She looked at me, her eyes wet. "You're too young to carry this mess," she said. "I should have protected you." "I'm not a kid," I said, sharper than I meant. "I chose this. I chose you." I reached for her hand, and she let me, her fingers cold but steady. When Tara finally came home, it was past midnight. Her eyes were red, her face set in a hard line. "We need to talk," she said, ignoring me and looking at Elise. "Alone." I nodded, retreating to the guest room, my chest tight. Through the walls, I heard raised voices, Tara's anger, Elise's pleas. I wanted to be there, to fight for us, but this was their battle. I was the outsider, the spark that started the fire. The next morning, Tara was gone again, leaving a note, "Need space. Don't call." Elise was a wreck, her usual calm replaced by a quiet panic. "She's staying with a friend," she said, clutching the note. "She won't even talk to me." "Give her time," I said, but the words felt hollow. I was losing Tara, and Elise was breaking under the weight of it. "What do we do now?" I asked, my voice small. Elise looked at me, her eyes searching. "I don't know, Riley. I want you, God, I want you, but I can't lose her. I need to fix this first." Her words stung, but I understood. Tara was her daughter, her world. I was just me. "I'll give you space too," I said, my throat tight. "If that's what you need." "No," she said quickly, grabbing my hand. "Stay. Please. I need you here." I stayed, but the house felt different, colder, heavier. We tiptoed around each other, afraid to touch, afraid to break what little we had left. I spent my days writing, pouring my heart into poems I'd never show anyone, while Elise buried herself in work, her art studio a refuge. A week later, Tara came back. She didn't look at me, didn't speak. She sat across from Elise at the kitchen table, her arms crossed. "I'm not okay with this," she said, her voice flat. "You're my mom. She's my friend. This is wrong." Elise's face crumpled, but she nodded. "I know it's hard, Tara. I didn't mean to hurt you. I love you more than anything." Tara's eyes flicked to me, sharp with betrayal. "And you, Riley? You just what? Fell for my mom? How do you think that makes me feel?" "I'm sorry," I said, my voice breaking. "I didn't plan this. I love you, Tara, but I love her too. I can't help it." She laughed, a bitter sound. "Love. Right. You're 19. What do you know about love? She stood, grabbing her bag. I need time, Mom. Don't expect me to be okay with this. She left again, and Elise broke, tears streaming down her face. I held her, my own eyes burning. We'll get through this, I whispered, but doubt not at me. Love was supposed to feel good, wasn't it? So why did it hurt so much? Elise's tears soaked my shirt as we sat on the couch, the house silent except for the rain outside. At 38, she carried the weight of a mother's love and a lover's guilt, and I, at 19, was learning how heavy love could be. Tara's absence was a wound, and we were both bleeding. I don't know how to fix this, Elise said, her voice muffled against my shoulder. She's my daughter, Riley. I'd do anything for her, but I can't stop loving you. Her words were a lifeline, but they scared me too. I don't want you to choose, I said, my voice shaky. But what if she never comes around? What if this breaks you both? Elise pulled back, her hazel eyes red but fierce. Then we fight for it. For her. For us. She cupped my face, her thumb brushing my cheek. I'm not giving up on you, Riley Harper. Her resolve steadied me, but the days that followed were brutal. Tara's silence stretched on, her texts to Elise short and cold. I felt like an intruder, my presence a constant reminder of the rift. I started looking for apartments, thinking maybe leaving would heal them, but Elise stopped me. Don't go, she said, her voice raw. I need you here. So I stayed, caught between love and guilt. We tried to find normalcy, cooking together, hiking, sharing quiet moments in her studio. Each touch, each kiss, was a rebellion against the fear that Tara would never forgive us. But the weight of her absence grew heavier. One evening, Elise got a call from Tara's friend, Maya. She's struggling, Maya said. She misses you, but she's hurt. Maybe give her a reason to come home. Elise hung up, her face pale. I need to see her, she said. Will you come with me? I hesitated. What if I make it worse? You won't, she said, squeezing my hand. You're part of this, Riley. We do this together. We drove to Maya's apartment, a small place downtown. Tara opened the door, her eyes widening when she saw us. What are you doing here? She asked, her voice sharp but brittle. I love you, Elise said, stepping forward. And I'm sorry I hurt you. But I need you to understand, this isn't about choosing between you and Riley. I love you both. Tara's eyes flicked to me, her jaw tight. You're my best friend, she said, her voice breaking. How could you do this? I didn't mean to, I said, tears burning my eyes. I tried to fight it, Tara. But I love her. And I love you. I don't want to lose you. She looked away, her hands clenched. I need time, she said finally. I can't deal with this yet. Elise nodded, tears streaming down her face. Take all the time you need. We'll be here. We left, the drive back silent, Elise's hand in mine. She didn't say no, I said, trying to find hope. That's something, right? Elise managed a small smile. It's something. Back home, we clung to each other, love and fear intertwined. I wrote that night, pouring my heart into a poem about bridges broken, burning, but still standing. Elise read it, her eyes soft. You're incredible, she said, kissing me gently. Don't ever stop writing. The next week, Tara sent a text, I'm coming home. We need to talk. My heart raced with hope and dread. When she walked in, her face was guarded but not angry. She sat across from us, her hands folded. I'm not okay with this, she said, her voice steady. But I don't want to lose you, Mom. Or you, Riley. I need boundaries. I need to understand. Elise reached for her hand, tears falling. We'll do whatever you need, Tara. You're my world. Tara looked at me, her eyes softer but still hurt. You're still my friend, Riley. But this is going to take time. I nodded, relief and guilt crashing over me. I'll wait, I said. As long as it takes. It wasn't forgiveness, not yet, but it was a start. That night, Elise and I lay in bed, her head on my chest. We're going to be okay, she whispered, and for the first time, I believed it. Tara's return didn't erase the tension, but it was a crack in the wall between us. At 20, she was trying to rebuild trust, and I, at 19, was learning that love came with patience. Elise, 38, was the bridge between us, her love for both of us a fragile thread holding us together. We set boundaries, as Tara asked. No PDA in front of her, no sneaking around. Elise and I agreed, but it felt like walking on eggshells. Every touch, every glance was measured, careful. Tara watched us, her green eyes searching for cracks, but she stayed, and that was enough for now. One morning, Elise suggested a family hike, her way of rebuilding what we'd broken. We drove to the Cascades, the air crisp with pine and promise. Tara led the way, her steps sure, while Elise and I trailed behind, our hands brushing but not holding. The silence wasn't comfortable, but it wasn't hostile either. At the summit, Tara sat on a rock, staring at the horizon. "I used to love these hikes," she said, her voice soft. "Just us, Mom. Feels different now." Elise sat beside her, her face open. "I know, sweetheart. I'm sorry it's changed. But I'm still your mom. That never changes." Tara glanced at me, her expression unreadable. "And you, Riley? Where do you fit in this?" I swallowed, my heart pounding. "I'm your friend, Tara. Always. But I love her. I want to be part of this family, if you'll let me." She didn't respond, but she didn't leave either. It was progress, small but real. Back home, life settled into a new rhythm. Tara worked at the gallery, Elise at her studio, and I picked up more shifts at the coffee shop, saving for a place of my own. But I spent my nights with Elise, her warmth a constant in the chaos. We talked about the future, tentative, hopeful plans. A trip together, maybe. A life. One evening, Tara found us in the kitchen, laughing over a failed attempt at baking. She paused, watching us, and for the first time, her smile wasn't forced. "You guys are ridiculous," she said, grabbing a cookie. "These are awful." Elise laughed, tossing a dish towel at her. "Blame Riley. She's the one who forgot the sugar." I grinned, relief flooding me. "Hey, I'm a writer, not a baker." Tara rolled her eyes, but there was warmth there, a spark of the friendship we'd had. It wasn't forgiveness, not fully, but it was a step. That night, Elise and I sat in her studio, her latest painting, a vibrant abstract of blues and reds, propped against the wall. "It's us," she said, tracing the colors. "Messy but beautiful." I kissed her, slow and sure, my heart full. Just like us. But the piece was fragile. A week later, Tara's dad, Greg, showed up unannounced. He was a tall man, gruff, with a lawyer's sharpness. Elise hadn't seen him in years, but his presence filled the house with tension. "Tara called me," he said, his eyes flicking to me with disdain. "Said you're shacking up with her friend." "What the hell, Elise?" Elise stood tall, her voice calm but firm. "This is my home, Greg. My life. Riley's a part of it." He scoffed, turning to Tara. "You're okay with this? Your mom and some kid." Tara's face tightened, but she didn't back down. "I'm not okay," she said. "But it's not your business. It's mine." Greg left, his anger a storm that didn't touch us. Tara's defense, small as it was, felt like a victory. She looked at me, her eyes softer. "I'm trying, Riley. I really am." "I know," I said, my voice thick. "Thank you." That night, Elise held me close, her breath warm against my neck. "We're getting there," she said. "All of us." I nodded, hope blooming despite the fear. Love was messy, painful, but it was ours. And we were fighting for it. The house felt lighter after Greg's visit, like we'd weathered a storm together. Tara was still guarded, but her small gestures, a shared laugh, a knowing glance, were steps toward healing. At 19, I was learning that love wasn't just passion. It was patience, trust, rebuilding. Elise, at 38, was my anchor, her strength carrying us through. We settled into a cautious rhythm. Tara joined us for dinners, her presence a bridge between the past and what we were building. Elise and I were careful, keeping our affection private, but every stolen kiss in the studio, every quiet moment, felt like a promise. One afternoon, Tara found me in the guest room, packing my things. "You're leaving?" she asked, her voice sharp with panic. "Not leaving," I said, setting down a shirt. "Just looking for a place. I don't want to overstay." She frowned, crossing her arms. "This is about me, isn't it? You think I want you gone?" I met her eyes, steady despite the ache. "I want you to feel safe, Tara. This is your home. I'm just trying to do the right thing." She softened, sitting on the bed. "I don't want you to go, Riley. I'm still mad, but you're my friend. And Mom, she's happier with you. I see it." Her words were a gift, fragile but real. "Thanks," I said, my voice thick. "I'm trying too." That night, Elise and I talked about the future, really talked. "I want you to stay," she said, her hands in mine. "Not as a guest. As us. A family." My heart soared, but fear lingered. What about Tara? What if she's never fully okay? Elise's eyes were steady. "She's trying. That's enough for now. We'll keep trying too." The next day, I found a small apartment nearby, a compromise, close enough to stay in their lives, far enough to give Tara space. Elise helped me move, her presence a quiet strength. When we unpacked the last box, she pulled me close, her lips soft against mine. "This isn't the end," she said. "It's just a new chapter." Tara came by that weekend, bringing a housewarming gift, a small painting of the Cascades. "Thought it'd remind you of our hike," she said, her smile shy. "I'm still figuring this out, but I want you in my life, Riley." I hugged her, tears stinging my eyes. "You too, Tara. Always." Life moved forward. I worked, wrote, built a life I hadn't dared dream of. Elise and I grew closer, our love deepening in the quiet moments, cooking, hiking, her sketching while I wrote. Tara joined us sometimes, her laughter a sign of healing. It wasn't perfect, but it was ours. One evening, Elise took me to the park where we'd hiked that first day. The cherry trees were bare, but the air was warm with spring. She pulled me to the same bench, her eyes bright. "I love you, Riley Harper," she said, her voice steady. "I want this us for as long as you'll have me." I kissed her, my heart full. "Forever," I said, and I meant it. But life had one more test. Tara's gallery was hosting a Pride event, and she asked us to come. "Together," she said, her voice firm. "As you are." At the event, we stood hand in hand, Tara beside us, her smile real. The crowd was vibrant, alive with love in every form. For the first time, I felt like I belonged, not just to Elise, but to this family we'd fought for. The Pride event was a kaleidoscope of color and sound, but all I saw was Elise's hand in mine, Tara's smile beside us. At 19, I'd found a home, not just a place, but a feeling built on love and hard-won trust. Elise, 38, was my heart, and Tara, 20, was the sister I'd chosen, even if it took time to get here. We wandered the gallery, rainbow flags draped over the walls, laughter filling the air. Tara introduced us to her friends, her voice steady as she said, "This is my mom, Elise, and her partner, Riley." The word partner felt like a victory, a testament to the battles we'd fought. Elise squeezed my hand, her eyes shining. "You okay?" she whispered, her breath warm against my ear. "More than okay," I said, smiling. "This feels right." Tara overheard, rolling her eyes, but grinning. "You two are gross," she teased, but there was no venom, only affection. It was the closest to forgiveness we'd gotten, and it was enough. Later, we stood outside, the Seattle skyline glittering under the stars. Elise pulled me close, her arms a safe harbor. "I didn't think we'd get here," she said, her voice thick. "But I'm so glad we did." "Me too," I said, kissing her softly. Tara joined us, her arms around us both, and for a moment, we were whole, a family forged in fire. The next months were a dance of growth. I moved forward with my writing, publishing poems in local journals, each one a piece of my heart. Elise's art flourished, her paintings vibrant with the love we'd built. Tara found her own path, her anger fading into acceptance. We weren't perfect. There were still awkward moments, boundaries to navigate, but we were together. One evening, Elise surprised me with a trip to the coast. We stood on a cliff, the Pacific crashing below, her arms around me. "You changed my life, Riley," she said, her voice steady. "I was afraid to love again, but you showed me how." I turned to her, my eyes wet. "You showed me I could be more than my past. I love you, Elise. Always." She smiled, pulling a small box from her pocket. Inside was a simple silver ring, etched with a tiny mountain. "It's not a proposal," she said, laughing softly. "Not yet. But it's a promise. You and me, no matter what." I slid it onto my finger, my heart full. No matter what. Back home, Tara saw the ring and raised an eyebrow. "You guys are hopeless," she said, but her smile was real. "Just don't make me plan a wedding yet, okay?" We laughed, the sound echoing through the house that had become our home. Love wasn't easy. It was messy, painful, beautiful. But it was ours. And as I stood between Elise and Tara, the past fading into the future, I knew we'd keep fighting for it. Because love, in all its forms, was worth it.